We are reading the fourth portion in the book of Devarim, in the fifth book of the Torah. And it's called Re'eh, which means see. So first of all, we've already spoken many times about the decision God made not to allow himself to be seen, but prefers to be heard. And we spoke about the advantages of hearing over seeing. Seeing is impersonal, more objective, which could be a good thing, but on the other hand, it's not personal. In a relationship, seeing is not the best thing. In testifying, if you want to be a witness to an event, you have to actually see it. But that's not an intimacy, that's not a closeness. So seeing is like light. Light is very nice, but there's nothing personal about it. As the wording in the song goes, cold, unfeeling light. Instead, there is the music of the night. When you don't see and you hear instead, you use hearing to make the connection. That is a much more romantic, a much more personal, much closer connection than what you see. Before I continue with my monologue, where I do all the talking, I want to invite you to a VIP session, a Zoom session, in which we get together to actually have a conversation and discuss all things Jewish, all things holy, all things healthy. So click on the link below and join us, where we can have a two-way conversation. So seeing is believing, but believing is distant. You believe in things you can't understand. You believe in things you can't prove, you can't get close to, you can't internalize. So you believe. So seeing is believing. But what God wants is far more than just to believe in him. He wants you to trust him, wants you to love him, wants you to fear him. That's a full, mature relationship. So hearing is much more conducive of relationships than seeing. And that's why at the event at Mount Sinai, God said, you want to see me? No, hear me. Now all of a sudden, the name of this week's portion is see. What happened here? We see that the content of this week's Torah portion is different from the three previous ones. In the three previous portions of the Torah, Moshe speaks about generalities. You left Egypt, you sinned, you made mistakes, you blew it. He reviewed the 10 Commandments, the event at Sinai, the trust in God, belief in God, the commitment to God, but all in very general terms. In this week's portion, Moshe gets into the details of the commandments, how to give charity, how to celebrate holidays, the nitty-gritty of the commandments. So here's pretty much what it looks like. It's true that hearing is deeper, more personal than seeing. But when the Jews asked to see God, and God said, no, let them listen, he wasn't completely rejecting the seeing. People asked, God was not going to simply ignore it. What God was saying is, there is seeing that comes before hearing. That's not going to happen. But there's a seeing that comes out of hearing, that when you hear, you really hear. You get it. It becomes so real to you. It becomes so clear to you. It's like seeing it with your mind's eye. So in the end, you do get to see. But it's a mature seeing. It's insight, not just a sight. Seeing God would probably be quite a sight, but it wouldn't be an insight. So what does insight mean? You hear first, and from your hearing and understanding and absorbing, it becomes as clear as day. Now, what happens when it becomes that clear, that real, that vivid? The details come into view. Then every detail suddenly becomes relevant, becomes significant, becomes visible. At first, when you speak about generalities, serve God. You're here to serve God. Do whatever He asks. Okay, that's an important commitment. But the details are lost. The details are not visible in this general orientation of the relationship. But as the relationship crystallizes, as it becomes sharper, clearer, the details start to show in their true light. And then you make a commitment to the details of the mitzvahs. It's interesting, the portion of the Torah that follows next week. Next week, the portion is judges and enforcers you should establish in your communities. See, we've gone a step further. First, we spoke about general commitment, general belief, attitude, orientation. Then we get down to the details, the mitzvahs, how they should be performed. And then we get to what if you don't? Then you need judges and you need policemen, enforcers. How do you do that? So we're coming more and more down to the earthy application of all the lofty concepts. And part of that process is you start with hearing until it becomes as clear as seeing. And that's why there's always been such an emphasis on education. Study, study, study. Ask questions, get answers, learn, learn, learn. Because there's so much to know. And the more you know and the better you know it, the more you see. I see. Aha. And then everything falls into place. Every detail counts. Even if you make a mistake, you have a way of fixing it. It lives. It's a living Torah. And all of that is enhanced by Moshe. When we have a proper leader, an inspiring leader, who can educate us, who can give us an internal relationship with God, in addition to the external fact you're Jewish, fact God took you out of Egypt, fact God gave you commandments, fact that you should listen to those commandments, those are all generalities, meaning not internalized, too big to internalize, too big to be personal. But then when you get down to the hearing and the learning and the understanding, you can internalize. So here's an interesting thing. The deeper you go, the more you know, the more the details become large and significant, not the other way around. People who only know a little bit and don't understand very deeply, the details don't appeal to them. They may be impressed and moved by the generalities, the 13 principles of faith. Sure, I believe everything is right, everything is true. Sure. But the details? Why bother? But that's what happens when your information is shallow. On the surface, the generalities seem big, the details seem insignificant. But as you get deeper and deeper, the details is what makes it really rich. A relationship with attention to detail. That's an intimate relationship. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it.